to be or not to be? That is the question.
This week on Jare to Jare.
The undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns.
You're relieved as an audience member at the end that he's finally gonna shut the fuck up and die, you know, doesn't have to worry about all this shit, man.
Good morning. My name is Mars. Welcome to Jared to Jared. On this week's episode, the Jareds will discuss William Shakespeare's Hamlet, David Tennant's PBS special, Revenge and Tragedy, Breaking the Karmic Circle, Kenneth Branagh, and much, much more. Enjoy the show.
I like the what you're saying about just the last few moments of what you're saying. Like he gets so caught up. He gets so caught up.
Right.
To the point of suicide, you know, and I think that's like so deep too. It's like I mean, Shakespeare's representation of all of these different emotional energies is just so impressive, where it's like, I think that is the trajectory of someone who's suicidal. Like, actually, right. It's like you want to see what suicide looks like, or what the path towards suicide looks like. It's like, watch Hamlet. I think it's pretty accurate, because you have this individual who lost his father, so he's grieving. He's in an incredibly stressful moment. He's feeling rejected and abandoned by his mother. He's feeling rejected and abandoned by his community. He feels completely alone. And then in his lonesomeness, he's then ruminating deeper and deeper and deeper, and just getting caught further and further and further in his own mental entanglements, until he reaches a point where he says, there's only one way left out of this. And then is contemplating jumping off the cliff, you know, into the freaking ocean. Chooses not to, ultimately, because he still has some kind of mission, which is to kill Claudius, and says, you know, I need to do that first. But I think it's a solid representation of rumination, at least, you know, the despairing mind.
Right.
And I think, for me at least, that's potentially what's kind of off-putting about Hamlet, is because I do see some of myself in it, you know, and so I'm reading this book right now called, I talked about it a little bit, I think last episode. This therapist named Peter Michelson wrote this book called The Phantom of the Psyche, and he's talking about this emotional attachment to feeling helpless, to feeling stepped upon, to feeling dominated, all these things, you know. And as I go deeper into that exploration, I definitely see the ways in which I do have these emotional attachments toward, like, feeling stuck, feeling lost, all these things, you know. And I think that's what's off-putting for me about Hamlet, is that, like, I get it. It's a stressful situation. You know, it's like if the ghost of my father came up to me and was like, I need you to kill your uncle. That's a stressful situation, you know. That said, I think Hamlet, he overindulges in the stress of it. He gets so caught in it. Like, I think he's digging it. He's enjoying it. He's so emotionally attached to his drama, you know?
Right.
Where, you know, I mean, and again, it's a difficult situation. You know, the ghost of your father comes up asking you to murder someone. That's scary. But I think if Hamlet weren't so caught in his own emotional attachments, he either would have just killed Claudius right off the bat, get it done with, and taken the throne. There would be no to be or not to be hesitating back and forth. Dude's hesitating constantly. Should I kill him? Should I not kill him? Should I kill myself? Should I not kill myself? You know, and he's totally trapped and totally stuck.
Right.
You know, and for me, that's the off-putting part, where it's like, dude, kill him or don't, kill yourself or don't, whatever you need to do, just fucking do it, man, because you're getting caught in your own mental knots, your own ruminations, and you're loving it.
Which is pretty crazy, with that David Tennant there in the PBS special says at the end that it's almost as if, I think if I was understanding right, it's almost as if Hamlet sort of gives up on this quest at the end before the fight. You know, he's essentially saying at the end, hey, whether he dies now or tomorrow or in 50 years, you know, karma's going to get him, you know. I'm here, whatever, let's do this. He's doing the sword fight with freaking, you know, uh what's her name? His
Laertes.
his betrothed that goes crazy.
Oh, Ophelia.
Ophelia, yeah. Ophelia's gone nuts, you know. Things have gone bad for him, for Hamlet, you know. And I think the big part that happens where there's sort of that change in his quest is when he goes to the grave and he sees the skull, right? And he's sort of thinking back on what is a human life going, you know, at one point you're in the court, you're entertaining everybody, making people laugh, telling stories. Next thing you know, you're freaking just yet another skull in an empty grave, you know. And is this anger and vengeance worth it in the end? Or should I just go back to being Hamlet, you know, and like hanging out with Horatio and freaking doing my thing? But of course, he's driven the king to madness. King is mad. He did freaking poison the brother. He's gonna murder Hamlet. They've already got the little plan going on there. Ophelia's brother,
right?
And boom, you know, a freaking tragedy at the end. So,
right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Hamlet and Horatio could have just been chilling, doing their Hamlet to Horatio pod. No,
exactly. Right. HP, you know, H to P. What are your thoughts on Ophelia?
God, man, I love Ophelia. She is the archetypal sad girl.
Sure. Yes.
She's the archetypal sad girl. And that's oh man, dude, just something about sadness is deeply attractive,
right,
for a lot of people. You know, it's like you look at it is an archetype, you know, the sad girl, or like the I feel like she's got some like manic pixie dream girl archetype in her too, you know, especially when she goes crazy and she's just like wandering around the fields, like picking flowers and singing these like creepy old English nursery rhymes to the flowers and stuff. It's like, really, there is something like, at least that's how it was portrayed in the Laurence Olivier version. It's very like almost like Alice in Wonderland-y, you know, and there is this like, I don't know, they like she crossed the line into madness. And I think that's what's so appealing about Shakespeare is like, it's not about regular day-to-day mundane consciousness. Shakespeare is constantly exploring what's on the other side of consciousness, what's on the other side of normalcy and the mundane. And when you're in that world where you're having visions of ghosts, when you're in this Alice in Wonderland space, you've lost your fucking mind and you're just wandering around the flowers, you know, reciting poetry to yourself, or you're talking to witches out on the heath, you know, it's like, and they're literally brewing up trouble and inciting you to do different things. Like there is something about Shakespeare where he's constantly stepping into, I don't want to call it the supernatural, because it doesn't feel like something outside of us. It's like, he's always stepping into the subconscious space, into the dream world, you know?
Right.
And that's part of Ophelia, you know? And I think, you know, you look at like the feminine, the moon energy, all that kind of stuff. Ophelia is sort of representative of that space. She steps into the other side. She steps into the fairy realm. I think there might even be, if I remember correctly, lines where she's talking about like being in the fairy circle and stuff like that. And it's just like, whoa, there's something really trippy and bizarre about it. So, and it's attractive. Like I find these sad, crazy people attractive. Maybe that's, you know, something I gotta look at in myself, but it's like, I don't know. There's something to, again, Bob Dylan, love Bob Dylan, Elliott Smith, love his music. You know, it's like these figures who are just so like moody and despairing and all of that, but there's such like beauty in it, you know. And then or the sad girl, like I've watched so many movies or shows where it's like, you know, the sad girl characters just like have such a crush on her, you know, like there's something to that. What's fucking crazy, last point about Ophelia, and then I'll send it back to you, but like some people name their children or name their daughters Ophelia. Like there are people named Ophelia walking the earth right now,
sure,
which is fucking crazy, dude. Why would you name your daughter Ophelia after this character who was rejected by her love and then fucking loses her mind and drowns in a stream. Like, why would you name your child after that character?
Right.
That's fucking crazy. Thoughts?
It is. Well, they just love Shakespeare so much, Bill.
I guess.
Okay, so first thought is remind me of a story Jim Carrey talks about how fucked up Hollywood is. That when he met with the director of Eternal Sunshine for Spotless Mind, he just so happened to be in a very depressive, like suicidal state, like during that time in his life. He was very
Jim
depressed.
Carrey was, or the director was?
Jim Carrey was.
Yeah.
And he met him for coffee to talk about the movie. And Jim was just like so depressed and like, hoodie and everything. And the director was like, took a sip of coffee and was like, please don't ever change. You're so beautiful right now. Like,
oh no!
In his depression and despair, of course, Jim Carrey was like, "What the fuck? This is so fucked up," And of course, that movie is incredible, and he's so depressed.
You're hitting on something big tragic. Here. You're hitting on something big. Yeah,
go for it if we want to take it back.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you're definitely hitting on something huge there. Because okay, Plato. Bring it back to Plato.
Okay.
I love Plato. One of the reasons that Plato didn't like the plays and the Greek theater and all that kind of stuff, the tragedies, Greek tragedies, is because Plato's goal as a philosopher, and for him, philosophy wasn't a logical practice. It was a practice of deepening and expanding his being, clarifying his soul, leaving Plato's cave, all that kind of stuff. And he says in the Republic, like, there's lines where he's saying like philosophy is a lived experience. It's not a, mental thing. So anyway, so his whole thing was like reaching the peak of human potential in terms of clarity of mind, clarity of being, connection to soul and spirit, all that kind of stuff. So then he saw the tragedies, all these plays where people are much like in Hamlet, misbehaving, their misery seems beautiful, all this stuff, right? And Plato's like, that's fucking ridiculous.
Right,
he's like,
right.
Plato's the one who walks into that scene with Jim Carrey and the director and says like, no, like, are you kidding me? No, drop your fucking depression, dude. That's not what this life is about. It's not about, trying to make yourself seem so tragic and big or something like that. He's like, drop that shit. Your life is about expanding clarity and growth. It's like, cut that shit out. So Plato didn't like the plays, and then for his ideal city, the Republic, his utopian city, he goes, we're not going to have the poets and the plays, and he goes, art's beautiful for sure. But he goes, if we're trying to create a highly, highly functioning city, he's like, we don't need that shit, because that's just going to make people try and emulate those characters and such, And I've seen that shit in myself where it's like, as a kid reading Jack Kerouac on the road and being like, oh man, I would love to just like wander around America getting drunk off my ass writing poetry in the woods all the time or something like that.
Right.
And like, I've done some of that. It's fun. However, it's fucking depressing. And it's like, there's this beauty to it. There's this beauty. It's like, beauty for who, man? That's like, that's fucking crazy. I don't want to be depressed. Let go of that shit. It's like, I want to be Plato, not Jim Carrey having a coffee with the director,
Right.
So that's,
I argue, we were talking about this on the phone the other day.
Yeah.
And when we were wandering around, Manhattan and the Santa Fe Plaza contemplating Hamlet for the past few weeks.
Fuck yeah. Yes.
Devil's advocate argument is, Shakespeare is showing us over dramatized emotions as a lesson to us to not do that. Right. This is something that's a tragedy. Don't live this way. So he's kind of in step with Plato in that way. But of course, we've kind of already unraveled that. Let's continue the convo. I'm more interested right now on what you think makes the happy character unattractive. What is it about being together, right? And having...
I'm freaking out, dude. That question just blew my mind.
Fuck yeah. I don't know. Your thoughts on that? What
Oh
what
my
is it
God.
about? Because tragedy is beautiful, attractive, even carnal. It's
Yeah.
passionate. It's but the Ophelia that's picking fairies in the garden, we're dancing,
That's so
Disney
good.
Channel, whatever the place it is, or that person really has their shit together. They have nice car, house. Let's kick it to 2025.
Sure. Yeah.
You have all this financial shit, the American dream, this and that.
Totally.
Oftentimes, that's not the person that the girl goes for or the guy goes for. We go for
Dude.
oftentimes these tragic figures.
Oh yeah, bro.
But what's unappealing? What's not attractive about the good?
God, that's such a beautiful, beautiful question. And I feel like that the answer to that question, I'm not necessarily sure I have it, but the answer to that question holds the key. Like that's literally the fucking key, man. That's the key to,
Fuck
to
yeah, yes.
happiness, to life, to all of that shit. Because what you're really asking, if and I think this is true that human beings, just most of us have an emotional attachment to feeling bad.
Right.
Your question offers the key out of that. What is it about happiness that seems unattractive?
Right.
And okay, to go back to that book, The Phantom of the Psyche, because that guy's been blowing my mind lately.
Nice.
Going off that idea that we are emotionally attached to shitty situations or whatever, or sadness, people, whatever. That's coming from a space of probably usually childhood stuff, right? Like we maybe were getting attention when we were sad. We were getting more attention when we were sad or something. I'm just making stuff up. Like you have a situation where there's a little kid, and then when they're pouting in the corner, that they end up getting more attention. Mom or dad goes over and wants to take care of that kid, whatever.
Right.
So then that kid learns, and it's all unconscious. No one's like deliberately doing this, right?
Sure.
So then that kid learns, oh, look at that. Interesting. When I'm pouting in the corner,
Right.
I actually get more attention than when I'm out running around outside, happy and healthy. Oh, interesting. And what we really want, here it is. I think here it is. What we actually want, the key. What we actually want is attention. We're desperate for other people's attention constantly.
Sure.
Even when we think we
and
don't.
Neediness is not attractive then, right?
Yeah, ultimately, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we have all our ways of playing these little games, what we learned and developed in childhood, we then take out into the world. It's like that's just how it works. So it's like I learned that sadness gets me more attention, or whatever it is, and then go out into the world and then continue to play the same game.
Right.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You meet a partner, for example, who for whatever psychological stuff they have going on is attracted to that. They're turned on by that. Oh, look at that romantic Hamlet-y sad boy. Wow. You meet your Ophelia. You meet your Ophelia, right?
Sure.
And then I've met my Ophelia before, and it's like, oh, interesting. Okay. And then it reinforces. Or you go out into the world and then play that game. Look at me. I'm so romantic and sad. And then the world says, I don't care, and then you don't get the reinforcement for it. And then you go, shit, I think I need to try something else because that game doesn't work anymore.
Right.
So anyway, I think to answer the initial question, which was like, what is unattractive about happiness? If our notion, just generally if our notion is of happiness, if happiness and success in our subconscious is equated with less attention from the world or something like that, we're actually going to reject happiness. So I think that's it.
Oh my God. Okay. Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
I do. Keep going.
So why is happiness unattractive? Because of that. Because I get more attention when I'm sad or something like that, or whatever it is.
Well, and then we also condition ourselves because, you become your trauma essentially, right? The trauma
you identify with it,
then traumatize, right?
Yes, you identify.
So if you only get attention when you're hurt, well, you're only going to give attention to those who are hurt.
Dude, beautifully said. Beautifully said. And that plays out directly in Hamlet. This is why Shakespeare's such a fucking genius, bro. Because what happens? What happens? So you have Hamlet who loses his father to a murder, right? And then the father says, you need to avenge me. So then what does Hamlet do? He's hurt. He's grieving. He lost his father. What's the first thing he does? Or the first act that he employs? He kills someone's father.
Right.
Before killing Claudius, the murderer, he kills Polonius.
Right.
Laertes' father. Thus, doing exactly what you just said, he extends the trauma. So then Hamlet is traumatized, right?
Right.
Fuck, I lost my father to a murder.
His girlfriend's father, you know? Yeah.
And he kills his girlfriend's father.
Right.
How it doesn't get more dramatic than that, bro. So he loses his father to a murder, and then he murders someone's father. And then it continues from there. Laertes, the son of Polonius, says, oh shit, I've lost my father. I'm fucking pissed. I need to do something about this. And then, ironically, Claudius, the initial father murderer, comes in and says to Laertes, listen, Hamlet killed your father. That's fucked up. I think you should kill Hamlet now.
Right.
Oh my God. The level of repetition and patterning of traumatic experiences. I mean, that is incredible. So exactly what you just said, Jared, like it's that level.
Right.
We get traumatized and then extend that trauma. We feel hurt and then hurt others, right? So why is happiness unattractive? Because happiness is clarity. Happiness is openness. There's no drama to happiness, which some part of us interprets as boredom, as emptiness. It's, oh, I'm not freaking out about this, that, or the other. So there's just emptiness now. What is that? Oh God, we don't even know what that looks like. We don't know how to just like chill the fuck out, record an episode of Hamlet to Horatio, and like have a good day. It's like, hey man, that was a good day. Things are going all right. Me and Ophelia are engaged. We love the drama. Maybe it's what we're used to. It's what we're projecting. All of it.
Right. H to H, man. Hamlet to Horatio. Yeah. And it's about breaking that cycle, right? Now nobody's ever really known the cycle. We just named it and figured it out,
Yes.
Through Hamlet. Oh, of course, Shakespeare knew, obviously.
Yeah, Shakespeare knows everything, apparently. It's fucking crazy, dude. Dude's a shaman.
Oh my God. But it's that cycle of romanticizing trauma.
Exactly.
And disqualifying happiness, right?
Exactly.
As this dumb, uncool, whatever, they're fine. This is unattractive, whatever. It's finding back the beauty in something that's healthy and good for you. Think about Ophelia, okay?
Love this, yeah.
She freaking goes against the father because it's attractive to hook up with Lord Hamlet, right?
Yeah.
Court.
The bad boy, yeah.
The bad boy. So she hooks up with the sad boy. Then freaking her dad's pissed about it, right? He's all hurt, tells her to stop doing it, And her relationship with Hamlet is so healthy and good, Hamlet's so into her. That's too good. It's not attractive anymore for Ophelia. So she goes with her dad and betrays Hamlet, right? So therefore fucking up her thing with Hamlet, keeping the passion roaring, keeping the fire kindled, Then Hamlet kills her dad, Jesus Christ. And then she's now so in love with Hamlet because his level of trauma and tragedy has gone up so many levels. She loses her mind.
Yeah,
she's back into this crazy ethereal realm. And the Kenneth Branagh version that I watched, right? It's interesting because it's a juxtaposition of the SLO one you watched, Sir Lawrence Olivier.
Yeah.
Whereas she's more in the normal world before her father's death.
Yeah.
It's after her father's death that she goes to this Alice in Wonderland sort of singing, in her straitjacket in the room looking at the mirrors
So
when,
fucked
her
up.
brother comes, she's freaking out, she's touching his face and, she's gone. She's gone to this crazy ghost world, right? So, and then look at Hamlet, in love with the tragedy of revenge, in love with freaking telling his mom off and look at this. How could you give up on this beautiful man?
Right.
Pulling up the pictures, this and that. And then, he gets poisoned, right? And then Leontes gets poisoned. Everybody's poisoned. Shit, man. Tragedy. When really Hamlet should have just hung out with Horatio, went down, got some mead with Horatio, and freaking some mutton soup. Met a really nice, freaking village girl there that had her shit together, owned her own pub, maybe was the bartendress there, had her own little nice cottage out in the countryside.
Yeah, man, not bad.
And man, so Hamlet could have had a good life. Ophelia likewise, she could have hooked up with Horatio. Horatio was a good guy. He wasn't a bad lord, he had his shit together. And but no, they both go for the tragedy, and oftentimes this is sort of what we do when really, hey, we need to acknowledge the happiness, because really what happens then, we put on these blinders.
Yeah.
And then we can't see the happiness. We defile it. Exactly. And then we take the wrong tragic routes.
Yeah,
leads to death by sword,
So good. Dude, and that's why I'm a student of Plato, It's like
J to J students of Plato. Man. Yeah.
Because Plato was, a philosopher rather than a tragedian, was saying, look, you're wrapped up in your tragedies, you're wrapped up in your shit. Whatever, you're human, that's okay, but you're very knotted up, you're ruminating, you're Hamlet right now, Right. And then Plato says, I know a way out. Right. Let's go. Or if you're still, caught in that shit and you're having fun with it, keep doing it, you like whatever, it's like there's no morality here in that sense. It's like, if you want to torture yourself, the universe, God, whoever is like, go ahead. It's like you have free will, torture yourself. If you want to climb out of those, that puzzle, whatever you want to call it, that tightly fitting sweater patterns, whatever. If you want to climb out of that, it's like, okay, cool. You can go do that too, Right. And that's been, dude, the past 2 weeks have been fucking mind blowing. Like reading this book where it's like, you love it so much, bro, like that kind of thing. It's like, it's like
you love it, bro.
Jeff, it's like, we complain constantly. Oh God, I don't have this, I don't have that. I wish I had more success. I wish I had a healthier relationship, all this stuff. And it's like, you love it so much, bro. It's like, you love it. Like you love the drama, you love being stuck in it, you love the why me, you love all that shit.
Right.
And it's like, and to acknowledge that, number one, because the first reaction I think is like, no, I don't. What are you, crazy? Like, no, this sucks. I hate this,
Sure.
But to acknowledge like, oh shit, I do love it.
Right.
I love it so much, bro. And then then you can start to follow Plato and climb out of the cave. But
right, exactly. And you asked me a good question this week, which is, hey, freaking my Uncle Leo, murdered my dad, and Paul, the ghost of Paul, comes and visits. You gonna go or murder Uncle Leo? What are you gonna do? Or the ghost of John shows up and's like, you have to kill, this guy on the force. That are you gonna do it? Are you gonna seek revenge? What was that? Your dad's nemesis? What was his name?
I don't know if I could say the name on the pod, bro.
That's true, man. That's true.
This is deep stuff. It's there's freaking court cases going on.
That's true. We better keep John's alias. We gotta keep
Jimmy Burke, man. He's the
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So if John came was like, Jimmy Burke, very unnatural. Seek revenge, Jared. Would you do it, or would you hop on J to J and just be like, listen, man, weird thing happened the other day, saw John, but hey, just gotta move past it? Or you gonna be like, let's go to Big Five. I need to get some guns.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Are you gonna Luigi Mangialoni it? What's what's the move? What's the move?
I'm definitely not, bro. Luigi Mangione, it's like as much as I'm like, yeah, we live in a really fucked up oligarchic system. Dude, I'm not about to fucking go kill anyone.
Right.
It's like, come on. Like, oh my Lord. Like, of course.
Question number 2, would you stage an elaborate play to call the guy out?
Yes, I would do that. Yes.
Yeah.
Take
that would
2 years. That'd be really weird.
Play. Write a movie that he might watch.
Yeah. Oh man, so funny.
What is okay? Let's do a little shift here.
Okay.
What is the origins of revenge? Why do we want to have revenge? And it's funny, even the concept of karma could be argued was created in order for us to constantly fulfill our ever-ending need for revenge. We think things, and that's sort of what he's talking about at the end too. He will die today, tomorrow, or whatever. Karma will get you,
Yeah.
Oh, karma's gonna get that person. Oh, bad karma on you, or bad juju, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
From Hamlet killing somebody to, somebody cutting somebody off in traffic. Oh, fuck that guy. He'll get his, whatever.
Yeah.
Why? What is it? What is it about these wrongs that we need to be righted constantly, or what is it? And then Shakespeare's telling us that there's no winners in a revenge story.
Right.
Every time somebody, think about this, right? Some friends of ours, we're constantly playing, this new game, The Finals. It's so fun. Where like, a friend of mine, burns you, right? Calls you out on something, hurts your feelings. And then, the next night you call them out on something and hurt their feelings, and you're like, oh, back. But then both of you feel like shit at the end of the day. And until like me and my friend Josh, this happened to us recently, and then we talked about it. It was just like, hey, sorry, bro. He's like, just been tired at work. I was like, I just need a cig all the time, whatever. Quit smoking. Sorry, bro, whatever. Miscommunication,
Totally.
There's this there's no winners in a revenge story, right? At the end of the day, and look at Hamlet. He got his revenge. The king is dead. What happened? He's dead and his mom is dead.
Yeah.
Ophelia's in a nut house. Like only person left is freaking poor Horatio, now everybody's dead. What the hell, man?
Yeah, and he's doing a solo pod now.
He's losing listeners left and right.
Poor guy. Yeah.
But again, back to this original. So if the result is bad every time, why the hell do we always want to seek the rights to our wrongs? What is it about vengeance?
Such a good question. All right. Okay, this one of the first lines of the play. There's something rotten in the state of Denmark. Right? So there's something rotten in the state of Denmark. And there's poison, right? There's poison in the state of Denmark. Claudius kills King Hamlet by pouring poison into his ear. Right? Next character who dies is Polonius. The next character who dies after that is Hamlet's mother. And that's a whole nother issue. We could get deep into the mother figure and the relationship with Hamlet, but then she dies by poison.
Right.
She unknowingly, accidentally drinks this cup of poison that was intended for Hamlet. Right. Next character who dies, Laertes. Laertes put poison on the tip of his sword with which to kill Hamlet. The swords get accidentally exchanged, and then Hamlet...
Or revenge, right?
Yeah. And then Hamlet kills Laertes with poison, right?
Yeah.
Which in that instance, you put poison on the tip of your sword, the one thing you can be sure of is that you're going to die by poison, right?
Right.
It all comes back around. You're right. It's very karmic. So Laertes then dies by poison. Claudius is then forced by Hamlet to drink the remaining poison in the cup, right? So he dies of poison. And at this point, Hamlet also was cut, I think, by Laertes' sword and is going to die of poison. Every single character except for Polonius. But Polonius is also, that's the whole trauma thing, trauma being projected onwards thing. Every character dies by poison. There's something rotten. There's something poisonous in the state of Denmark.
Right.
And I think that's just the nature of karma. I mean, karma in its most basic definition just means cause and effect, Right. Or Ralph Waldo Emerson has an essay called Compensation where he says, everything balances out. The universe seeks equilibrium. And what is equilibrium? Equilibrium is truth.
Right.
The truth comes out always at some point, even if it's 100 years later, right? So there's something rotten and just by nature of the universe, like that rotten thing needs to be purged. It's like you have a boil on your skin, a pimple or something, and it needs to purge. It needs to erupt. You have a sickness and you need to vomit. For some reason, there's just this like cork in the system of the universe that we need to purge out whatever ickiness is there, whatever poison or rottenness is there. And the process is the process, it's like what happens in Hamlet just happens to be the process by which the state itself purges itself, and then there is a way in which, and they talk about this in the David Tennant PBS special, but where there is this kind of very subtle optimistic ending. Because in the end, all of these characters who were involved in the rottenness of Denmark, they're purged. They're gone.
Right. They're gone. Yeah.
And now it's just Horatio there, who Horatio's always been a good guy. There's been, Horatio he's like he's like the only like solid character.
Right.
And it's just him left. And now Denmark, purging itself of whatever rottenness was there, can now move on, And
right.
and I would even argue it's like the rottenness, I'm sure it didn't begin with Claudius murdering King Hamlet. Who knows what King Hamlet did to take power 20 years before? We don't know.
Right.
Like there was some kind of rottenness that just needed to get cleared out, and this is the form it got cleared out in. So I think that's the nature of the karmic predicament of Denmark in this moment,
And who takes over Denmark there at the end? What's that character's name?
Oh, I totally forget.
Yeah. But see, he ends up sort of breaking the karmic revenge cycle.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing to do and acknowledge when even considering or talking about something like an idea of karma, right? That, well, you did this, that means this will happen. This will happen. That'll happen. Well, this causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Well, then if that caused it, then this will cause it.
Yeah.
That shouldn't always be the case. In fact, what we should do is say, fuck karma. And right? Because the king of Denmark could have been dispose of them, hang their bodies up, put Hamlet's head on a spike, and the king out front. This is a new Denmark, baby. Woo, fucking burn it down. No, he honored the dead. He honored the memory of this. It was a new Denmark. It was a more peaceful place, right? With Horatio and this and that. And like you're saying, there was a poison. And let's put a name to the poison, right? Vengeance. Everybody was trying to seek karmic vengeance on each other, right?
Yeah.
And it all led to a tragic end. What needed to happen was enough, which leads me, as you were saying that, to J to J, Jesus, right? J to J to J. One good appealing thing to Jesus was love thy neighbor, love thy enemy.
That's something clicked. Yeah.
No more of this eye for an eye bullshit in the original
Wow.
Hebrew scriptures, right? This
Right,
is
right.
more forgiveness, forget, and let's stop this stupid karmic cycle that has been happening
Incredible.
over and over and
Incredible.
over, generation.
Oh,
Remember what Claudius tells Hamlet in the beginning.
yeah.
This is unmanly. This is your sadness. This is your a son of a son of a son who's all we've all lost our father. I lost my father. His father lost his father, and his father lost his father, right?
Yeah.
When really, boom, let's go to Christ here. Enough with the killing of the fathers.
Right.
Everybody's dying. Stop this stupid, oh, because your father died. That means your father, karma, enough.
Right,
Forgiveness.
right, right.
Here's a new world, right? A new path, a
Yeah.
new way to time and to God, right? And to our own lives.
See, that just clicked. That was beautiful. Cause like the whole Christ dying on the cross for our sins, like I never
Right,
understood what
right,
that meant until
right.
right now.
Oh,
Jared to Jared.
yes. Hey, Jesus. All right.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jesus. The freaking Jesus died on the cross for our sins. Never understood what that meant. But now what I'm thinking is that he's the cycle breaker. Like you're saying, he's
Right.
breaking the karmic cycle of death, destruction, all of that stuff. So if you look at like, and it's all metaphorical, but you look at like
Sure.
Rome, right? As I don't know, just the empire, you know, with all this karma, there's been so much death, destruction, conquering, all of this stuff, right? And arising within that karmic state is this figure who is like a magnet or something taking on the karma of that state's vengeance, you know?
Right.
And he's just absorbing it, right? Now there's another possibility that, you know, Jesus would have reacted to that. You know, oh wow, the state is seeking vengeance upon me. Well, fuck them, we're starting a revolution, burn it all down. And what does that do? Like what you're saying, it's like, well, that would just revolve the door even more. It's like we're going to continue this fight, you know, and it's never going away. So then Jesus, by just receiving fully the karma of that situation, receiving fully the vengeance of Rome, opening completely to it, absorbs that karma and metabolizes it, empties it out so that it does stops with him, right? And that's how, you know, people talk about like the whole trauma thing, to bring it back to that. I mean, is there a way in which Hamlet, rather than being, you know, the sad boy, goth boy who's like pissed off, freaked out, caught in his head, wants to kill everyone, is there a way in which he could have become the Christ figure of Denmark, where he says, no, this stops here. This stops here.
Yes.
This stops here. Claudius is right. Everyone's father has been killed. And then Hamlet, instead of going on to kill a father and extending the karma onto Laertes, Hamlet actually could have stopped.
Yes.
Paused, metabolized that karma and turned it into light, let go of it.
Right. And look when it happens too, the confession scene, right? With Jesus, with God in that moment, because Claudius is actually genuinely repentful and regretful about what he did in those moments, right? That's why Hamlet doesn't kill him. He's like, if I kill him now, I'm going to send this sucker to heaven and I'm going to hell. Right. Yeah. Because in Jesus's eyes, in sort of the J to J galacticism eyes too,
right?
This was the moment of ending the karmic circle. Hamlet could have also forgiven him in that moment too.
Yeah.
And been like, oh my God, you know what? Like, this needs to end. Just like you said, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Then what would have happened? He would have moved in with Ophelia, got married, freaking hanging out with Dante's, freaking H to H would have dropped a new episode of freaking Hamlet, could have talked about going and visiting the grave diggers and, seeing, what's his name? The skull, what's
Yorick,
his name?
yeah.
Yorick skull, but no, we oftentimes get our resolution, the way we're going to seek and find resolution, wrong.
Yeah.
And we think the only way to do it is eye for an eye, is fundamental karma, a karmic response. But really, oftentimes it's not. It's about forgiveness. I saw this funny little reel the other day with Johnny Depp where he's like, hate's that's with Rue from Chocolat, he's like, no, that's an expensive emotion. He's like,
I like that.
Yeah. He's like, I don't have enough like time or enough emotions to give a fuck about that. So and that's the thing. Vengeance is an expensive emotion, Don't invest in it. You'll lose your money. Fuck that.
Wow.
I say break the karmic circle, forgiveness, forget, because really the vengeance is not worth it. What's worth it is finding peace. And breaking the terrible thing that happened to you, right? Two wrongs don't make a right.
Yeah. And God, a couple of things. One is like, so then that makes it available for us to each be that cycle breaker and karma breaker, whatever, in our own lives, right? It's like, we don't have to be tortured, die on the cross, Jesus style. We don't have to be in this like really intense Hamlet situation where there's like murder and suspects, all this stuff. We could just in our own lives, whatever our karmic predicament is, we metabolize that. And hopefully it's much smaller. I don't want the Jesus one. I don't fucking want that shit where the entire state is after you and you're dying on the cross. That sounds awful.
Right.
Freaking Garden of Gethsemane, the dude's crying blood in the garden or whatever. Crazy. Don't want that stress. But in my own life, your own life, everyone's own life, there is some kind of space where we can be that, whatever it is, whatever the situation is, That said, there is something sort of unsettling though, because take Hamlet. Okay, Hamlet's like, hey man, turn the other cheek. Like, we're breaking the karma. So what? Claudius, the murderer, and now the king, and now shacking up with Hamlet's hot mom gets to just like continue on. Like, what the hell? That doesn't seem just. That's some bullshit, man. I don't like that. Right. So what's with that then? Like, do you think in that universe where Hamlet becomes Christ Hamlet, that I don't know what happens with Claudius is that poison? Hamlet's not extending the poison. Good job, Hamlet. But is that poison still going to, the karma of that poison going to come back on Claudius somehow? Is justice going to come out? Or is Claudius going to repent and become a good leader? Or, it's like, because there's something unsettling in that narrative of turn the cheek. Turn the cheek. Are you serious? Look at that shit. Look what he did, Right. Thoughts?
This is just making me think about our contemporary sort of, what we're fed commercially and in major movies, like all the like Marvel movies, right? Everyone finds resolution by killing the bad guy, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Though that's kind of changing. Loki's like, they're more of these anti-hero sort of aspects. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking more of like specifically even the demonization of forgiveness as well. Think about I was recently talking about Saving Private Ryan when he decides to let that German go. And then at the end of the movie, the German comes back, stabs him in the heart, ends up murdering him, So it's like, should he have just taken vengeance, when he had the chance? Who ends up ultimately winning in that situation? And that might be the thing. Who ends up ultimately winning in the situation? And I feel like Shakespeare, Jesus, same level, Plato, they're all trying to say Ethan Hawke, right? At the Jude Law, dudes arrived, freaking Daniel Craig. They're they're trying to say that the winner is the person that walks away. Your soul can be either equally eternally damned, or one of you can go to heaven, and I think peacefully at the end of Saving Private Ryan, old Tommy Hanks dies peacefully because he didn't take vengeance in that moment or whatever,
Right.
We have these choices to die for the sins of others, which is the shadow of ourselves, And one reason why we hate Hamlet, to bring it, because sort of background, is the inability to hold on, to not let go of this feeling of, well, shit, the king's going to still be there boning my mom, living in my dad's bed, this and that. Well, who knows? Is it better? We don't know. The guy may hate it as the king. Now the mom holds it against him, hates him, doesn't really like him. She's just trying to survive. That point you said too. She may not really even love him. The guy could be a mess. He's thinking about killing his brother and everything. He might not have it well. And then all of a sudden he gets too drunk and gets kicked in the head by a horse and dies early, and boom, you're back being the king. You're King Hamlet now. Your mom's cool. She's single. Boom. You and Horatio are kicking in the palace. Best thing you could ever done was let it go. Right.
Yeah.
We don't know. So,
because the karma does come out. I mean, it always does. It's like, and you're right. It just comes out in various ways where you're right. Maybe Claudius does get kicked in the head by a horse. We don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the best sort of revenge, not to be cliche, that we can do is living your best life, right? Because in the end, you win and everybody wins. Plus, your dad's dead. He's a ghost. Like, go hang out in the eternal sunshine. Go visit Saturn or something. Get over it. Mom moved on. You moved on. You're in the afterlife. I don't know. I think there's peace in forgiveness.
I think so.
Yeah.
Hey, question. I'm thinking, because there's like another topic I kind of want to talk about, but I just want to check in on time. I have time. If you have time, I'm down to keep going. And then I also want to take a break though for like a couple, just a quick one,
Yeah, sure. I got some time. Yeah, Dolly's still playing. I'm in for like another half hour or so.
Perfect.
Does that sound good? Yeah,
that sounds good. All right, be right back.
All right, cool. Yep.
You ready?
Ready.
All right. I just want to read a couple of quotes from the book that I've been reading, and then I got a topic to introduce Shakespeare, Shakespeare related. So this book, The Phantom of the Psyche, Peter Michelson. He says, it's a couple of really good quotes here. He says, on the surface of awareness, we think we hate our deadlocks, dilemmas, dissatisfactions, and disappointments. We say we want these old, painful feelings to go away, but they won't without our awareness of how emotionally attached we are to them and how determined we are to experience ourselves through them. So just to kind of, what I was saying earlier about that. And then he's got one more here. We associate our truth with danger and the likelihood of rejection. We fear losing the love of those to whom our truth is addressed. And indeed, we do run the risk of being disliked for speaking that truth. And then later on, he says, understand that the feeling beneath these fears stems from a childhood impression. The child can feel being me will annihilate other people. They will die or self-destruct. I am thus responsible for their life, for their happiness. Thus, many of us spend much of our time catering to others, trying to please or save them, and negating or annihilating ourselves in the process. Which is cool. I mean, he's essentially saying it's like there is this fear, and it's deeply, deeply, deeply subconscious, but this fear that like if I'm 100% fully honest with where I'm at, I'm fully stepping out of the karma, whatever it is, that will somehow harm other people. And the idea is that because we find safety in a group, we're actually going to prioritize conforming with the group over living our most authentic, true self.
Right.
And then that's where stuff starts to get messy. So,
Right.
yeah. And sometimes that looks like, okay, Hamlet style, depressed, miserable, whatever, because that's just a role that we're used to within the group function.
Right.
So we're actually going to prefer that over happiness.
Sure. And that I think the second one you read as well is we identify with the traumatic things that are happening within our lives, right?
Yeah.
And this is something that me and you talked about over the phone, where we talked about it. Let's talk about it in two contexts. We talked about it earlier in the week when I asked you, hey, Hamlet really identifies with his trauma, right? He says constantly is saying out loud, I'm traumatized. I am a son of a slain father, a stained mother, and I will essentially gladiator style have my vengeance in this life or the next,
Yeah.
The guy's constantly naming and identifying with his trauma. And we talked about it earlier, in our wandering, thinking about Hamlet, that nowadays in our contemporary society, we never really try to identify with our trauma. We're always trying to get rid of our trauma. Whereas Hamlet actually found power in his trauma, saying, hey, I'm this, I'm that, this happened to me and that happened to me. So now I'm so powerful, I'm going to take vengeance and take what is mine, right? But now let's think about it in a different context after those lines that you just said.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually a negative thing that he's so identifying with his trauma, right?
Yeah.
It's bad. And think about it. If in the lines that you're reading is true, we're finding our true selves in sort of these roles within the group, within our traumatic experiences. Sad boy Hamlet. I'm son of a slain father and a stained mother. Oh, woe is me,
Yeah.
That would feel terrible to get rid of who you are, right? Your identification, to get better, to do better, right? To strip that away. Well, that's who you are. That's who you've made yourself out to be in your head, is traumatized, right? You fully identify with your trauma, so much so that you self-destruct. You make bad decision after bad decision that ultimately leads to your untimely and early death, and the death of your mother, and all this bad shit happens,
Yeah.
So, so I don't know. in this instance, we need to let go of that role. We need to let go of the trauma and stop saying, I'm a son of a freaking, janitor, and I'm this, and a single father, and I don't make that much money, and I'm I'm a single guy that can't find love, and I'm a this, and I'm a that,
Yeah.
Let it go, man. Go
Those
hang
are
out
just
with
stories.
Horatio, take Ophelia out on a nice date, just like we were saying, let it go. Stop identifying. You're Jared, you're Hamlet. You're a person, God damn it. You're not this stupid category of vengeance, of trauma.
Yeah.
You're Hamlet. Go write a better play. You're obviously a good writer, freaking channel your charisma. Everybody loves you, your cool dark style, start up some trend, whatever the case, right?
Yeah.
Start identifying with your true self, and then maybe you'll start experiencing and living a happy and good life, right?
God, that was so well said, man. That's the key. That's the key.
Shed the trauma,
Why is happiness unattractive to us? You just answered that perfectly, And dude, Hamlet, you're right, because everyone does love Hamlet. He's actually very well liked.
Right.
You see him like Horatio and those other dudes when the ghost first appears to them, like they're boys. They're all hanging out. They're like,
right.
They're freaking like the Scooby-Doo gang, like, oh shit, what's with this ghost? They're all hanging out together,
Totally.
Him, Horatio is his boy. He has Ophelia, this beautiful woman who's like
the
obsessed
friends come
with
to
him.
Spy on him. They still like him,
Yeah. His friends are like concerned about him. He's got, he's deeply creative. He like writes this play, and you can see, at least in the Laurence Olivier version, when the actors show up.
Oh, they love him.
They love him. You could tell that they like know each other, and like Hamlet makes a few
and
jokes,
he shows them a mutual respect, right?
Definitely, the creative community like loves him. His mom loves him deeply. You can see that. Like,
why can't he identify with any of these?
Exactly.
Has to be slain mother and stained father. Slain father, stained mother. Like, why can't it be? I'm Hamlet, writer of good play, really.
And there is a line like early on, like I forget, maybe it's between Claudius and Polonius. I don't really remember, but like, if I remember correctly, the question arose like, well, why doesn't Claudius just have Hamlet killed? Put an end to this, Sure. And then Claudius says something like, the people of Denmark love him. Like if we kill Hamlet, we're fucking ourselves politically.
Right. Yes.
Hamlet's loved by everyone in the state, and it's like, you're right. How come you couldn't see that,
Yeah.
And I think what happens is like, cause you're talking about the like, sense of power that does come with identifying with our traumas, with our upsets and things like that.
Yes.
And you're right. That is there. But I think it's a false sense of power. It's a false power, right? Because it's like, woe is me, right? I mean, that's a Shakespeare quote. But woe is me, look at me, I'm suffering so much. I'm, kid pouting in the corner to get attention, whatever. There is a sense of power that comes with that, I'm going to kill the king, it's like there is a sense of power that comes with that. However, it's a very small sense of power when you compare it to the power of Christ-like forgiveness, of letting go the karma, of all that stuff.
It's superficial, right? Superficial power that is ultimately means nothing. It's a sound and a fury, to go back to Macbeth, right?
Oh, so beautiful to connect it to that. That was awesome. It's the sound and the fury. That's the sound and the fury is the very small sense of power that we think we get when we act out, misbehave, shoot ourselves in the foot so that we can say, why is life doing this to me? All that stuff. There's a false sense of power. And if you let go of the attachment to that false power, you open up to this much greater power,
Right. No, you're blowing my mind here a little bit because because he is getting what he's seeking, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, if it, like we'll talk about the variations we watched. I want to talk about that a little bit, but
yeah.
one of the most iconic like movie scenes, cut scenes, posters, cinematography of the 90s cinema was Kenneth Branagh
Mm.
in the beginning of the film, standing with his back to the camera in
Oh,
black garb.
yeah.
And in front of him is beautiful rose petals falling on the court, and everybody's wearing pink and light blues and white.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah.
And he's, you know, the shadow to this contrast, right? This
Right.
very, you know, visceral contrast. And that's what Hamlet wants. That's why everybody loves him. The freaking, you know, but cutting it back to what you were saying, when we seek, I'm depressed, we get attention. When you're a little kid, I'm hurt, your parent gives you attention. And he, you know, you were absent just for a second there, bathroom break, during the PBS special, but they talk about how the bedroom scene, Hamlet and his mom, the original play was never on a bed. That scene was never on a bed. It was actually them two on chairs fighting it out, talking about, you know, look at this guy. How could you give up dad for this dude? He killed Pops, you know? Yeah. And then Pops comes in, is like, what's taking so long, bro? Go kill, you know, this and that. But it wasn't until the 1920s version that the bedroom and the kissing of the mother on the mouth was included. Why? Because that fucking director had just read Freud.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
You know, and Freud was trying to connect. His Hamlet was in love with his mother, right? And then boom, Freud, Laurence Olivier did it, and the tradition has continued on. Fuck that. I say,
yeah.
Sort of what our argument is being made. It's more actually a seeking of approval from the father and from Hamlet's father and mother, right? So I'm imagining now Hamlet, when he was a kid, he had to act hurt a lot in order to get his father's approval or attention, right? So then that carried over into his adult life, which then, boom, it's working. Everybody's cares for Hamlet. Friends are coming to take care of Hamlet. Freaking, we saw your dead dad, Hamlet. Freaking, you know, even the guy who killed my dad's on his knees telling me how much, you know, this is what grief is. And right. It's actually working for him, but it's fleeting. It's all this, you know, so dust in the wind, you know, it's so freaking weak. Yes, it's weak. And really the true power would have been the breaking of the karmic circle, the fuck all that faux attention, because no one truly cared about Hamlet in the end. Dude's dead, right? Except for Horatio, of course, you know. But ultimately, you know, he should have found peace not in that seeking of the attention from others. Man, he was already cool. Everybody loved him already. You know, he could have had a great, he was dating Kate Winslet, freaking so hot, Ophelia, you know. He was a lord in the court. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's too bad. Dude. It's a tragedy is what it is.
Yeah. So this one quote comes to mind from Rumi, the Sufi mystic poet from like the 1300s, I think it was. Nice. But he has a line where he says, "We're all fishing for minnows without realizing we're already standing on the back of a whale." You know?
Wow. Yeah.
And I think that's essentially getting at what we're describing here with the false sense of power, you know, where it's like
yes.
The so part of us that's like identifying with the pain, with the trauma, whatever, that's like, oh God, I'm suffering so much. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Please come look at me, you know? That part is fishing for minnows. It's so small. It's so small. But then you let go of that part, that role, whatever it is. And then it's like, oh, wow, it's so much more expansive. You know, that power, you know, is so much more expansive. I mean, and that's why you get like these, you know, mystic figures, Diogenes, you know, in ancient Greece and people like that who are just like looked down upon upon the rulers, looked down upon Alexander the Great, and was just like, dude, you have no idea, Alexander. It's like, cool, man.
Right.
Look at all your power. Look at all your extreme amount of wealth, and you're conquering the whole world.
Right.
You know, do you want to conquer the world, or do you want to be the world, have the world, be in the world, all of it? You know, it's like, it's even conquering the world is minnows.
Right.
It's
And
nothing.
that's a crazy thing, is conquering the world, you actually lose the world. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't have it without it. Man, that gave me chills right there. Words to live by, man. Words to live by.
Yeah.
Thinking about all the Jared to Jared galactic observers out there, thinking about job stress, relationship stress. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I take vengeance, on the ghost of my father, or landlord, or whatever,
Whatever. Yeah. It's just minnows.
Freaking-
It's just minnows.
Yeah, it's all just minnows, right? Give us the line one more time. Freaking fishing for minnows.
Yeah. We're fishing for minnows without realizing we're already standing on the back of a whale.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
good. So good.
Dude. So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what it is, man. It's like,
And that's the thesis of Hamlet, right? Everyone was essentially fishing for minnows when there was an entire life before them. Even Claudius, killed his brother, poisoned him in the air.
Yeah.
And he was already a cool guy living in the freaking, in the palace with his family. But guy had to go out there fishing for more minnows, He lost the meaning of life where he was at, So.
Yeah. It's like, who are you? It's like, there's so many ways to identify. If I could, because you mentioned this earlier, if I could use yours, it's like, whatever, single father, job stress, all this stuff. And it's just like, yeah, sure. But like, that's just a story too, it's like,
right.
You're also just like sitting there talking right now. It's like that
happiness all around us, right? We got to start identifying with the good parts of ourselves. Yeah. No more identifying with, I am the 37-year-old man who went down the wrong trauma with the wrong person and the wrong this and the wrong job. And that's
a story. It's just a story.
How about, we're Jared to Jared. Sons of good fathers, awesome times, and like, we're good looking dudes. We have the world ahead of us. People like us, people want to listen to the show. Let's identify with happiness. We have good families.
Stack the good, bro. Yeah.
Back in the good, because what happens if we continue to stack the bad? Well, you end up like Hamlet. You end up like Claudius. You end up like Leontes. Yeah. You end up like Ophelia when you start, exoticizing and romanticizing the bad.
Yeah.
Enough. The director with Jim Carrey in the cafe telling him he's beautiful, let's find beauty. Let's find beauty in what is tangibly beautiful already in ourselves, always already around us, right? The well that's inside of us all. So.
The Plato path. Yeah.
The Plato path. Yeah.
Fuck.
I don't know, man. Final thoughts on Hamlet. Unfortunately, I have a quadzillion final thoughts that we could just continue going off. This could be a 14-parter, like we said, but
it really could. Yeah. I guess, okay. I'll just say this because I just wanted to get it out because it felt like, a good one, and whatever, if it needs to turn into a conversation, it will. If we could just also just name it and drop it, that's fine too. Okay, I've been thinking of like a term for Shakespeare's kind of universe that he creates. I texted you about this when I first watched Hamlet, and it's like Shakespeare on one hand is realism. It's like this oligarchic realism, or even you could call it naturalism, and the kind of early 1900s naturalism, just like brutal reality, stuff like that.
Right.
Power, all that kind of stuff. But there's also something really fantastical about it. Like I was saying earlier, people are crossing into the other realm, talking to witches and ghosts and all this kind of stuff. madness. That's such a theme in Shakespeare. And the fact that everyone is walking around speaking in absolutely beautiful verse is weird. There's something really bizarre about that, right? It's like, what universe is this where everyone is speaking in iambic pentameter? That's weird,
Right.
So there's something very mystical, fantastical about Shakespeare too. So I was thinking of it as like astral realism, where, or even a shamanic realism, where like when you look at shamanic spiritual traditions, people who have practiced those don't view reality as an either or, where it's like, okay, I'm awake and I'm at work and stuff like that, and that's what reality is. And then when I'm dreaming and when I'm sleeping and dreaming, that's a separate reality or something like that. Or when I'm doing a spiritual practice, deep meditation, that's also another reality. It's like, no, it's all just facets of the same reality. It's all the same pie,
Right.
And I think that comes through in Shakespeare. It just feels like all of these different elements of consciousness, the aesthetic, the archetypal, the psychological, the small self obsessed with minnows and power. It's every piece of our consciousness is kind of like coming through in Shakespeare. So it is this like, in that sense, this shamanic realism or astral realism that I think he's portraying.
Right.
Yeah. So I just wanted to get that one out because that feels significant to Shakespeare.
Totally. Now let's go back. I'm thinking back to the PBS scene where they go and they find the original copies, or not original, but the oldest copies of Hamlet, right? And they have the one where that line is changed to be or not to be. That is the question. While in the original pamphlet, or the oldest pamphlet, there's only 2 left in the world. The line is to be or not to be. That is the point.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that changes everything.
And now I'm thinking about your great point, which sort of like got me lost in the cosmos there, about this ethereal realism, right? I'm thinking about my favorite line, the undiscovered country, sort of. This undiscovered country to where no one comes back. And you were talking about this sort of cycle that this ethereal realm is hitting on through the verse, this sort of circle and circle and circle. Well, where's the one place that breaks the circle? It's the undiscovered country, which, scholars, everybody argues, and Shakespeare's talking about, was death, essentially, right? In a literal sense, death.
Yeah.
But in a metaphorical sense, it's what we've been talking about, right? It's an ethereal place, this ghostly realm where we can leave this circle, finally, the circle of vengeance, the constant karmic, reactionary. Yeah. This happened, that happened, this causes it, that causes it. Freaking the Henry Rollins syndrome, Hamlet going full Rollins.
Yeah.
Leontes full Rollins,
Hamlet Rollins.
Hamlet Rollins. What is this undiscovered country? Well, it's the death of all this stupidity, of vengeance, of this over dramatized, nature of our of power, seeking power. Claudius was wrong. He should have never continued on, never should have killed Hamlet's dad, right? But then Hamlet shouldn't have. You get where I'm going here, right? The undiscovered country is a place where we should all go in our heads. Let's name it, man. The undiscovered country is sort of this happiness and peace that we want to that we're seeking out, It's not really, and that was the original script, to be or not to be. Not that is the question. That is the point. We're trying to get to the undiscovered country.
That's fucking wild. Yeah. And that's very Taoist in its way, it's like the Tao, some ancient Chinese wisdom, starts off, the first line is like, the Tao that can be named is not the true Tao, so it's like the thing that goes beyond words, that goes beyond thought, that
right,
that other place, you know, and it's that's in Taoism, it's in Buddhism, all that. It's like that other realm that isn't other, because in like Zen philosophy, for example, like we're already there, we just don't realize we're there because we're so caught in our heads. We're so caught in our narratives, we're so caught in our identities, caught in fishing for minnows. And when you let go of that stuff, that's when you're in the undiscovered country. And that country, it's undiscovered in the sense that it goes beyond concept. If you try and place a concept on it, if you try and place a concept on it, it goes away, because now you're trying to put it in a box.
Can't name it. Right.
It's infinite. And when you try and put the infinite in a box, it stops being infinite. Right. So you missed it. You missed the point. So the undiscovered country, it's like you can be it, you can be in it and all of that, but you can't discover it. Right. You can be it, but you can't discover it. You know, it's like, so yeah, I don't know. There's something. And
I'm kind of thinking about Plato too, leaving the cave, right?
Yeah.
Which no one ever comes back. Once you're out, you're out.
Yeah.
Jude Law, Daniel Craig, you've arrived, the undiscovered country, and no one comes back. And what happens at the end? David Tennant is talking in PBS special, Jude Law, all these actors, right? What happens to Hamlet at the end? Finally finds peace when he, dies and the play ends. He finally finds an undiscovered country, and he'll never come back to vengeance. He'll never come back to sad boy freaking self-indulgence and woe is me and seeking attention of this and that. He'll finally find peace. Now, are we saying go out there and freaking, commit Harry Carey? No, obviously not. It, metaphorically speaking, though, kill off the desires, seeking power, seeking vengeance, seeking grief and all, toxic relationships, all this stuff, jobs, all this shit, right? And find peace in a new place outside of the cave, outside of Plato's cave, where Captain Algren, right? Freaking the end of Sake, the last samurai, find a peace we all seek, a few of us never find, and try to find that, which is, in this context, the undiscovered country, which hopefully we never come back.
Yeah. And that's happiness, that's happiness. Because it is, you drop all that stuff again, the identities, the false sense of power, all that, you drop it. And then where are you? Happiness, I don't think is it's not another thing that you can hold on to.
Yes.
Happiness is actually just letting go so fully of all those small things that you are the undiscovered country, that you are infinite.
Right.
And that's that space of happiness, and then that can include, that doesn't have to mean, you now live out in like some like weird empty valley by yourself or something like that. That's not what it is. Like, you're still in the world, you still have relationships, this and that. I think things probably start to clarify more, though. You let go of those your attachments to that bullshit, and then next thing you know, whatever, there's more clarity. You do have healthy, you're not so attached to the turmoil and ups and downs of like a bad relationship, for example, Macbeth style. So then you are, you find yourself with just like a solid person, community, group of people. You're in the village,
becoming Ham Bob. Yeah.
But it's interesting. So to get there, it's not about freaking out and holding on and trying to find the thing that's going to make you happy. It's about letting go of all the shit that you're attached to, and then things just naturally begin to clarify.
Right.
The undiscovered country, which always has to remain undiscovered for it to be real.
On behalf of the Jareds, thank you for listening. Follow, rate, and tell your friends. Red and Rad will be back next time, and always remember this above all. To thine own self be true. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.